bettors. It's week 7 in the NFL, and we're going to give you our top 5 picks for this week. Before we get started, make sure you hit that subscribe button, ring the bell for the notifications, and you can get all of our free plays throughout the week, including our freebie Fridays, which have been doing very well. And just like this one, our NFL picks of the week. We are coming off a 4-1 week on week 6 in the NFL, and we look to continue that momentum in week 7. So without further ado, let's get into the week 7 NFL picks. So our first matchup is going to be the Battle of Ohio. You have the Cleveland Browns and the Cincinnati Bengals. They have played earlier this season. It was a Thursday night football game. High scoring. Cleveland won 35-30 in this matchup. The Browns are favored by 3 points. They're coming off a disappointing loss against Pittsburgh. And when I say disappointing as a Browns fan, that's being very modest. It was excruciating. The Browns sucked. Baker Mayfield looks like he's the worst quarterback. Just as we predicted, go back, look at our week 6 picks. He sucked it up. Ben Roethlisberger is just Ben Roethlisberger. And a fan of the program, Chase Claypool, is scoring touchdowns left and right for Pittsburgh. The Browns are 4-2. That's a little misleading. As a Browns fan, I understand that. Everybody else here in Cleveland, they don't understand that. The Browns are 0-2 against the Ravens and the Steelers. Those are good teams. They whooped our ass. I think we scored maybe like 14 points combined in those 2 games. Against the 4 crappy teams we played, yeah, we're 4-0. So our record looks good. 4-2, the Browns look really good, but it is misleading. On the flip side, Cincinnati lost last week to the Colts to go 1-4-1. Joe Burrow looks like, as he started some momentum throughout the first couple of weeks, he's taken a step back. He doesn't look too great, and even though he did play well against the Colts, at times he threw erratically, and it looked like it cost the team down the stretch. I like the Browns in this. The Browns -3 looks like the way to go here. OBJ and Landry and Mayfield, they've been fighting Cleveland media all week on if they're good enough. And I'm going to tell you right now, against the Bengals, anybody's good enough. So I think the bookmakers here, they maybe overcompensated for this line a little just because of the turmoil that they might see in Cleveland. But I'm going to tell you right now, the Browns -3, that's a great play. Take that to the book all day. That rhymed. Yeah, that was nice. All right, so matchup number 2 as we move on is going to be in the Dallas Cowboys and Washington football team matchup. You have a Cowboys team, if you watched them last week against the Cardinals, Andy Dalton looked like a 3rd-grade quarterback against that team. He was not good at all. They are 2-4, which surprisingly is tied for first place in the NFC East. I got to be honest, the NFC East is going to probably be winning that at 7-9, maybe even a 6-10. They're going to beat up each other, and it's going to be a hard-fought league. Andy Dalton didn't look good. Their defense didn't look good. Their offense didn't look good. I don't have 40 minutes to tell you what wasn't great about the Cowboys, but the Washington football team, on the other hand, is 1-5, and they're just awful. They lost to the Giants. And if you watch this last Thursday night game, the Giants blew a 12-point lead in the last 4 minutes to the Eagles. And that kind of is the circle of life there with the NFC East. They all suck. So I'm a little surprised on this game. The Cowboys are a pick-em, or the game is really a pick-em. Daniel Jones looks awful. The Giants have given up 30 points in the last 4, and even in the opening game, they gave up 27 points. So, I mean, they're giving up about 30 points a game. Dallas, on the other hand, their defense isn't great. They're giving up 30 points plus as well. But Daniel Jones is just turning the ball over too much. I like Andy Dalton in this matchup. I like them to bounce back. Elliott's got to get started. He hasn't had any rushing yards. I know he's on my fantasy team. I'm about to trade him, so he needs to get started. He needs to do that. But we are going to take Cowboys at a pick 'em. You can take the money line if you want, it's the same thing, but you'll probably pay a little extra juice on the money line. So Cowboys on the PK. Third matchup of this Sunday in Week 7 is the Detroit Lions and the Atlanta Falcons. Both of these teams are not having a great year, although last week they both had wins. The Atlanta Falcons had their first win of the season over the Minnesota Vikings. Don't even get me started on the Vikings team. They're one of those teams that is always projected to do well, and they just are always underachieving. On the flip side, the Lions beat up on the Jaguars. Finally, the Jags are starting to look like the Jags, and the Lions took advantage of that. The Lions, in the past, I think, 5 out of 6 games, both the games have gone over 50 points. They like to put up points. Stafford looks good. I'd like him to get Marvin Jones involved a little bit. He hasn't done anything all year, and he is the number 1 receiver. So I don't know what's going on there, but look for him to bounce back. I know the Jags' pass defense is a little stagnant and kept him from having a couple receptions. So look for him to have a big game and score some points for the Lions. On the flip side, Matt Ryan is just a fantasy machine. The guy throws 4 touchdowns, 300 yards every single game. This guy puts up points. 4 out of 6 of their games have gone over 56 points. The last one, 3 out of 6 have gone over 60 points. And this guy just knows how to find his receivers. So we like the Lions and the Falcons over 54.5 points here. There's not much defense on each side. And to be honest, the Falcons are phoning this in. They don't even want to play out the rest of the season. They're 1-5. They're not going to make the playoffs. The Lions, on their hand, they're behind the Packers. The Vikings are there. And the Bears, who knew? They're in first place. So they're probably not going to make the playoffs either. They're just going to have personal stats in this game. And we like it to be probably something like a 35-31 game. A lot of points, a lot of scoring. So Lions, Falcons, over 54.5. Moving on, number 4 on the slate for week number 7 is going to be the Packers minus 3.5. They go out and they play Houston this week. Yeah, Houston's awful. They're 1-5. They fired Bill O'Brien, and then all of a sudden they decided to play a game in honor of him, and they won. But then last week they got back to losing against Tennessee. Now, Tennessee is a good team. They're undefeated going against Pittsburgh. They're not on our slate this week, so we won't talk about it too much. But their loss against Tennessee wasn't too horrible. They did put up some points, but they are giving up about 30 points a game to all of their opponents. On the flip side, the Packers were up 10-0 against Tampa Bay and Tom Brady last week. And then you know what happened? They got outscored 38-0 and lost the game 38-10. So that was kind of awful. They looked horrible. And Aaron Rodgers is just that kind of quarterback that you would think that would bounce back. And 5 out of the 6 games, they've scored about 36 points per game this season. On the flip side, Watson doesn't look great at quarterback. He hasn't really found a receiver to go to. Their running backs are nothing. David Johnson's been awful this year. The defense on Houston, which is normally great, led by Watt there, hasn't done much. And you would think that would keep Green Bay maybe from having a running game. But Aaron Jones is having a phenomenal season, and he'll probably break out for 1 or 2 touchdowns in this game. So, again, we like the Packers minus 3.5. Take that as probably a 2-unit play. That is on the lower end of these 5 plays for us. Finally, we are going to take a stab here at the San Francisco 49ers matchup against the New England Patriots in our last play of Week 7. The Patriots, they have had 2-3 straight weeks of COVID issues, dating back all the way to, I believe it was that Monday or Tuesday night game against the Chiefs. They didn't look well there. In the last 2 games, they haven't put up points. They lost last week to Denver, as you know, by 6 field goals by Denver. They didn't even put in the end zone, and they lost. So they haven't looked good. But to be honest, and to be fair to them, it's all been COVID-related. They didn't get to practice. Their facility was closed down. And Cam Newton hasn't been able to really have a repertoire with any of his receivers. On the flip side, the 49ers are giving up points like it's their job. 4 out of the 5 have easily gone over the total here, which is 44. And we like that Cam Newton is going to be able to toss it around against that San Francisco defense. There are quite a bit of injuries on San Francisco, including running backs and a couple wide receivers. But we do think that this is going to be a higher scoring game here. I'm not sure why it's a lower at 44 for the total, because both of these teams can put up at least 28 points in this game. This might be a trap game here, but we love the over 44. This is actually going to be one of our higher unit plays at 4 or 5 for the Week 7 picks here. All these plays are going to be probably around 2 or 3 on average. We haven't solidified any of our units yet. Make sure that you hit the subscribe button. You get all these NFL week picks week after week. If you're interested in grabbing memberships, look in the description below. They're so cheap. We have people signing up for a year package for less than $100. So make sure you get that. But you know what? We're not salesmen. We just give you the picks. That's what we're here for. And let's just recap Week 7 real quick. We got the Browns -3 over the Bengals. We have the Cowboys as a pick'em against the Washington football team. We have the Detroit Lions and the Atlanta Falcons over 54.5. We have the Packers -3.5 over those pesky Texans. And lastly, I don't know why it's so low, but please take the 49ers and the Patriots over 44. It's a winner, chicken dinner. All right, so that's it for Grandstand Bettors Week 7 NFL picks. Check us out, subscribe, hit the bell, notifications all the time. And remember, sit back, relax, get that popcorn, get those chips, and let us do the work while you do the winning.